On one random Facebook page right now, there's an argument taking place that, from any mature point of view, has gotten completely out of hand. Two fully grown adults who have never met before have been exchanging death threats, making fun of each other's children, and voicing slanderous accusations which, even if true, the other person wouldn't know it anyway. Their grievance, you might wonder. What must be an absolutely critical difference in muffin recipes? On any given 24 news channel, there is a man or woman who talks for a living, trying desperately to convince millions of people that there are nefarious shadow people operating in profoundly malicious ways to undermine your personal freedom. Skip on over to Twitter, and the once settled debate as to whether or not the Earth is flat violently rages on. There was a time before all of that, though, a bygone era in which you'd actually have to come home and speak to your family before immersing yourself in the latest user-created hate and media-generated paranoia. I'll go ahead and state for the record that what I'm about to say next is just my opinion, but it is my personal belief that the calamity I'm describing isn't created by any specific issue, but the inherent fact that our media is unavoidably manipulative. It isn't a new concept by any means, but the problem that I'm trying to illustrate here might not be as obvious as you think. The issue isn't just the overtly negative posts or news stories that you're guaranteed to see every time you log on or tune in. It isn't even the constant hate flung back and forth in any given comment section online. The issue is that very few of the things which are clearly designed to elicit an emotional response from you are actually drawing upon emotions which are authentic to your personal reality. You read a news article about a shooting and you feel bad about it, and that's good. You're supposed to feel bad things when bad things happen. You see a friend on social media post about a birthday party that went well, and it's not unreasonable for you to feel happy for them. But a crucial disconnect exists here. You didn't get shot, and you didn't go to that birthday party. They didn't even offer you any leftover cake. The emotions you're feeling are those of a person who's merely watching events, not one who's participating in them in any meaningful context. And where once the act of spectating events was reserved for entertainment, it's now become a near constant way of life, which has reached its grime-covered claws out and grasped every aspect of our world. So why is this a problem? Well, because the distinction between real life and entertainment is one which should never be blurred. Anonymous people can quickly become actors in your mind, and it's very easy to mistake the parts that they're actually living merely for the parts that they play. When a character in a movie dies under horrendous circumstances, the average person doesn't feel a sense of profound loss, specifically because it's fiction. And to mistake fiction for reality is a detrimental lapse in conscience that allows some diluted emotional response to permeate into the real world. Social media allows for us all to be more connected than we ever have been before, only with some emotional caveats. We should be asking ourselves, are we connecting with other people, or are we connecting with characters? Are these names and pictures representing human beings with thoughts, dreams, and considerations of their own? Or are they voids for us to impose our own narratives onto? A healthy mind in the real world can respect another person who holds a different religious belief, at least so long as those beliefs don't translate into any extreme conflicts with their own. But what happens when that other person is no longer an actual person to you? How would you personally respond to a conflict with a cartoon character? Does that sound like a conflict you'd even take seriously, or does it sound like a conflict that's trivial by its very nature? What I'm asserting here is that it is trivial, and I'm arguing that ultimately none of these heated debates ranging from political ideologies to muffin recipes have any meaningful impact upon your personal reality, other than being a drain on our energy and time. Whether you're an active participant in these online arguments or just a captivated spectator, reading endless comments and getting invested in the drama, the time we devote to this online pastime matters, and it's emotionally taxing on us whether we realize it or not. After years of being emotionally invested and being compelled to be outraged about something on social media, I finally said enough was enough. I unliked and unfollowed pretty much anything and everything even remotely political, spiritual, or cultural. Nowadays, when I log on, my entire timeline is filled with suggested posts trying desperately to pull me back in a million different fights that I opted out of a long time ago. Fights that I've never once missed when they were absent from my life. Social media as an entity doesn't rightly care that witnessing thousands of people every single day rejecting basic facts or objective morality is kind of soul crushing. Profiting from user generated content depends upon conflict, and that conflict needs to be stoked with an oversaturation of negativity. Ultimately, any species with even the slightest degree of emotional depth to speak of would be negatively impacted by that. For us, sometimes that means being polarized. Sometimes that means our emotional survival mechanism manifests as apathy in the face of human suffering. Ask yourself how many posts about murder and corruption can you scroll through in your timeline before you start to feel numb to the concepts. A lot of times it can seem like all we are ultimately amounts to little more than pieces on a chessboard, to be moved by whatever one side or the other is outraged about today. But right now I'm going to suggest something drastic, something that doesn't mesh very well with ad revenue. Removing yourself from the digital board altogether. And I'm not the first to suggest this. Some call it digital detoxing, some call it a tech holiday. The term you use is actually meaningless to the overall point that you don't have to be cannon fodder in a culture war. You, more than likely, have a life outside the internet that I would encourage you to get back to. There are kids to be raised, skills to be honed, experiences to be relished. When you recall the moments from your life that move you the most, are you thinking about the freedom bestowed upon you the day that you got your driver's license? The pride that you felt when your child took their first step? Maybe that surreal constellation of feelings surrounding your first love? Now, how many of you can look back on the best day of your life and find it in the Facebook comment section surrounded by random people and potentially fake profiles? There's a whole world waiting for you. For people my age, it's a world some of us left. For younger people, it may be one that you're barely familiar with. But it's always there, and that's where the things which define a good life are made. The genie's out of the bottle as far as social media is concerned. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, and I'm not necessarily saying that you should just disconnect completely. But my ultimate suggestion here is that you're not contractually bound to be connected, and that the interconnectivity we have with internet characters may very well come with a personal detriment in our own lives. When you're arguing for or against something, you may feel you're doing so from a place of good, but I invite you to analyze if a week spent on social media translates to more or less good than a week where you are completely connected to the real world. In the end, life is a garden, and we have to tend to it.